Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Common Council meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alderman Taylor.
A moment of silence for two police officers that have passed, Richard Wick and Bernard Konetsky, better known as Bernie. One thing Bernie did, we had an arson throughout the Fox Valley at that time, and that was pretty new to our departments. And Bernie really took that under his wing. And we caught this arson that was causing havoc throughout the Fox City. So early on with the arson, Bernie was the guy that really brought that forward. Thank you.
First thing on the agenda this evening is the roll call. Uh-oh. Go back to that again.
Alderman Sevenik?
Here.
Alderman Kruger?
Here.
Alderman Zielinski?
Here.
Alderman Grady?
Here.
Alderman Benner? Alderman Nichols? Here. Alderman Taylor?
Here.
Alderman Collier has been excused.
Item E is public comments on any matter of concern to the city. If there's anyone here this evening who would like to speak, if you could step up to the microphone. Let's see if I can get it turned on. Oops, wrong one. There we go.
Chris Evenson, 523 Broad Street. First, my congratulations to Sam on his promotion. I'm here tonight to address two questions that I believe are of concern to the city and the council. The first involves Resolution 1517. This is the resolution offered by the mayor and unanimously adopted by this council in support of a change in state statute so the state would maintain ownership and control of the Racine Street Bridge. I'd like to know the status of our 1517. Second and related, I'd like to know what is the status of our effort to band with other drawbridge-burdened communities to change the state statute on bridge ownership. Everyone, the mayor and the city council, seem to agree it is not in Menasha's interest to own the Racine Street Bridge. But as it stands, if the bridge is replaced, the state will turn over ownership of the bridge to the city. If the bridge is just upgraded, the state maintains ownership for another 40 years. Council voted June 19, 2017 in favor of the repair option. Mayor vetoed the repair option, and 3 members of the council upheld that veto. Similarly, the referendum question was passed by the council, vetoed by the mayor, and that veto was upheld. I was curious after speaking at some length in December on the bridge issue to get more background, and the clerk was kind enough to provide copies of the city council minutes and the Board of Public Works minutes. In her email, she said she had checked with the mayor and he hadn't heard back from state representatives that he had sent the resolution to. She also said the mayor was working with other municipalities that have bridges to have a face-to-face meeting with state representatives. Then we have in tonight's package 2 pieces of correspondence provided by Alderman Taylor. One is a letter from Amanda Stuck dated January 11, 2018. It states her office had not received a copy of our 1517. The other is an email dated January 23, 2018 from Senator Roger Roth's Chief of Staff, Matt Henkel, stating that they reviewed their records and did not find a resolution related to the repair or replacement of the Racine Street Bridge. In response, the mayor posted an email dated May 16th, addressed to an assistant of Senator Roth, attaching a resolution and asking that it be forwarded to another of Senator Roth's assistants. I would urge you to carefully read these items. I applaud Alderman Taylor for asking our representative and senator whether they received our 1517. Without his inquiry, we wouldn't have found out that our state senator and state representative didn't get the resolution. This is a curious situation. My questions are, was the May 16th email the only transmittal of our 1517 to representatives of the state of Wisconsin? Was there any response to that email? Was there any follow-up with Senator Ross' office or other state-level offices regarding the email? If other parties were contacted regarding our 1517, who were they? When were they contacted? Have they responded? Specifically, have the communities we're working with on this issue been contacted? After 8.5 months, what is the status of our 1517? What's our game plan going forward? Is there any initial estimate as to whether there's a reasonable hope the state will amend the law as sought by our 1517? What is the status of our work with other similar bridge communities? Who have we contacted? When were they contacted? Were they given a copy of this resolution? What's our game plan? What's the group's consensus on the likelihood of getting relief from the state? For the city to just continue on the path to have the bridge replaced without effort to get the state to retain ownership and financial responsibility puts the taxpayers at risk. And we don't know truly what that risk is. Do we know what it costs to insure the bridge? What type of warranty is going to be offered against defects in materials or workmanship? Do we know what the average maintenance cost will be? Do we know who would perform that maintenance? Do we know who we contact if the bridge breaks down? How do we handle the cost to replace the bridge 50 to 75 years from now? We know what it costs to own a steam plant, $40 million. That was a very expensive lesson that has hobbled other investments in our community and will for years to come. To risk adding the cost of bridge ownership to our budget makes no sense. Let's push to find out if the state law can be changed in line with our 1517 while we still have the time. But if the statute can't be changed before the bridge construction and the state refuses to retain ownership, then the only fiscally responsible course is to seek repair of the existing structure.
Thank you, Mr. Evenson. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening?
My name's Denny Lauer. I'm a staff representative for the United Steelworkers Union. I actually live in Stockbridge, Wisconsin, so I would hope you would allow me to speak. I was concerned when I read in the Appleton Post-Crescent on January 18th, 2018, that in the future downtown plans for Menasha, it did not include the Sunoco mill. The United Steelworkers Union represents approximately 100 members at the site. The last couple of years, Menasha has already been hit by 2 mill shutdowns, Graphics Packaging and the George Whiting Paper Mill, which I also represented, with a loss of 250 combined hourly jobs. Now with the latest announcement of Kimberly-Clark looking to shut down 2 mills in Neenah, the article creates even more anxiety with our members at the plant. This is a mill that has been around since the late 1800s, providing family-sustaining jobs. Some of the mill employees live in Menasha and others spend their money at local businesses in the downtown area. I would hope that instead of the city of Menasha planning for the plant's demise, it would work to make sure that this plant stays in the community and in business for decades to come. Thanks.
Thanks. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening?
Hi, my name's Ken Flatoff. I reside at 1204 Carpenter Street, and I share a lot of the same concerns that Denny has. I'm actually an employee at the mill, plus I'm a taxpayer for the city. My question is, I've seen the letter that Mayor Don has issued to Sunoco, saying that they've had a good relationship, and it doesn't look like your future is heading towards forcing Sunoco out of the area. But I didn't see a retraction in the newspaper with anything trying to pull back on that neither. And I have concern with a lot of our members. I'm also a union president at the mill. A lot of our members there are kind of concerned what their future is with the city of Menasha, if they're going to have jobs here, if it pays to stay living here. So with that article being posted in the newspaper, I am concerned. And with all the mills that are pulling out of the area, a lot of the cities are trying to cope with the destruction from the mills pulling out. I can't believe a city would try to force out a viable company. Sunoco is talking about investing millions of dollars in the next couple of years here. So I'm really concerned about our future. So I would like to see the city let us know what their true feelings are about what's going to happen in the next 10 years with that plant. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. I just want to let you know that we can't comment and respond this evening because it wasn't on the agenda, but I would like to get back together with you. We have been working on some things with the mill, and you don't have anything to worry about on our end at this point.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the report of department head, staff, and consultants. We'd like to take a moment to introduce Sam Schrader. Sam has been promoted to the new Community Development Director this evening. He's sitting in the middle with no name tag because we didn't have one printed for him. Sam joined us as our Principal Planner in 2017, late in the year, and he has shown great ability in leadership and management during the interim when we were searching for a new director. He also played pretty key roles in the Downtown Vision Plan, implementing the Paint and Restore program, and bringing some new developers into our community. I think you'll be happy to see some of the things he's been working on over the past couple months. He has a degree in urban planning and GIS from the University of Stevens Point, and we look to hopefully have many great years with Mr. Schrader in the future. I don't know if anyone has any questions or if you'd like to say anything, Sam? Oops.
I would just like to say, thank you very much.
Hold on.
You're not on? Okay.
There we go.
New to this. So I guess I would just like to say, very, very grateful for this opportunity. Take it very seriously. There are a lot of different tasks that a community development director does deal with. My door is always open. If you guys have any questions, you can always give me a phone call, shoot me an email. Try to be very open, upfront, and honest with what's going on in Menasha, because it's very important to all of us that we see the future moving forward. So, thank you.
Alderman Zelinski.
Thank you. Well, congratulations, but I had a few questions from constituents, and I didn't know the answer either, but they're wondering why wasn't this gone through council for approval, not just the committee?
The directors that require council approval are the finance director, the public works director, and the city attorney, I believe, correct? And the others are appointed by the mayor.
Is there a certain reason? No, I just wondered,
That's the way
is there
the
a certain
ordinance is
reason? Oh,
written.
that's how it was written originally?
Yes,
Okay, I was just wondering on that. Thank you.
you're welcome. So we'll move on to the minutes and communications. Do we have a motion? Alderman Stevanik.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we move on, could you provide us with that information? I usually had thought that once a department head was brought on board, that it got the consent of the council.
That's how it's been done for the past 3 or 4 department heads, but yes, I can
Bring
bring
it
you the
forward.
ordinance.
Thank you. All right. Mayor, thank you for recognizing me. At this time, I'd like to receive minutes A through H and communications I through R.
It's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Alderman Kruger.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I just have item I, and this is for the fire chief. With our Scene Street Bridge, a lot of different, the weights in Wisconsin on fire trucks, they're classified as non-divisible vehicles, which means you could take the weight of the equipment and the truck, separate them, and actually count it as 2 different vehicles. I just wanted to find out if the department ever looked into to finding out if that type of classification would qualify it to be able to go over the Racine Street Bridge, or if there's any type of permit that would be allowed by the DOT for an emergency vehicle to be able to use that bridge instead of taking the risk of the Taco Street Bridge being stuck open or something like that and not being able to access and have to get a hold of another fire department.
We did not look at that. We did not look. Yeah, we did not look at that, and I can certainly do some research to see if that is something that we can do, the non-divisible classification, and I can get back to you.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm only allowed to have 1 light on at a time for some reason, so.
Okay, not a problem. One more question then. With this being a concern on our Scene Street Bridge, and I believe I asked Director Ramdowski about this on the 3rd Street Bridge. Did we ever find out what the weight limit is on that to find out if there's the same concern on the fire truck going over their Scene Street Bridge that would actually be part of the 3rd Street Bridge concerns also?
I am in the middle of looking at that. We have an engineer who is looking at that information. However, with the Main Street plans and SSES work going on, we just haven't had time to look into that too thoroughly yet. So we are looking into it. We just haven't gotten there at that point yet.
Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Bremidowski, I would also have you look into the Lake Road East, Lake Road West bridges to see if they can accommodate that ladder truck weight. Item D, the Needham National Joint Finance Committee. And there was we were talking about the hiring of the deputy fire chief. And I guess I can talk about this when it comes up in item 4, on item G4. Item I and M. I've been up here for almost 20 years, and we've always got communication when we correspond with state legislatures. And I was surprised that we never received a letter back from the state on resolution R-15-17 regards to the Racine Street Bridge. And doing a little investigation and talking with our representatives, I met with, first I talked on the phone with their staff members, and then met a week and a half ago with Amanda Stuck, our state representative. And the purpose of, I thought of resolution 1517 was to help us leverage the state to keep ownership of this bridge by creating, as this resolution did, a narrative for that it's a regional bridge. And being a regional bridge, we shouldn't get stuck with the full impact of that. As you know, I opposed the new bridge and went for the rehabilitation of the bridge, both as a taxpayer of the city of Monash and a taxpayer of the state of Wisconsin. I feel when you can rebuild this bridge for $7 million compared to $22 million from a state or a local standpoint, I think that's what I would rather do. And as we found out throughout the year, the state has tremendous problems with the DOT budget. Now we have the Foxconn project, and according to Amanda Stuck, when I met with her, Representative Stuck, that's going to put a very negative impact on the rest of the state. So in our discussion,
folks in the gallery are having a hard time hearing. Can we get the volume turned up a little bit? I know that's something that they're here about. I don't want to miss your whole point.
Thank you.
You can keep going. Just speak a little louder.
Representative Stuck has agreed to forward this cause on the floor of the state legislature for us, and she is putting it in this session, which closes this next week, to get this in on time. I've spoke with Senator Roth's office, and he was on military duty, so I'm going to speak with him tomorrow. I kept in contact with his staff all through last week, and I don't want the door to close on us in the Senate session. So he will bring in that. he will be bringing that to the floor, hopefully for us, and look at how we don't have to inherit this bridge. And I think it's important when we do something here that we make sure that the follow-through is there and work with our state officials. That's who represents us. That's who can change these laws for us to benefit us. And with such a high-cost item, the city of Menasha has, Mr. Evenson said, you know, we don't have the staff to take on a role like this. I look at the Ray-Nitsky Bridge in Green Bay, and it's 10 years old. It's been down over 30-some times throughout the last 10 years. And the Leo Frigo Bridge collapsed under its own weight, and that's a static bridge. And as Mr. Everson said, where are the warranties? Where are the guarantees? They're going to build this and walk away. We need to know that. And Tim Length, who spoke here 3 times, he's in my district, lives on the 500 block of Broad Street. He's out of town tonight, and he asked me to ask his question again. Where's the money coming from? Who's going to pay for this? How are we going to budget this? What this council should be doing is we should be trying to reduce the high taxes of this community. And with a project like this, we're going to only have to increase the taxes on the community, and we should be trying to go the other way. So I'm confident our state legislature people can help champion this cause, and it was suggested that we should have the secretary of the DOT come up here with the mayor and council members and staff and look at the situation and show them firsthand exactly what's happening here in our community. So I would hope that we can accomplish that. Thank you.
I'd just like to comment a little bit. The purpose of Resolution 15-17 was to work with Roger Roth to try to put something within the state budget to rectify the situation, to help us either pay for the operations of the bridge or to have the state maintain ownership of the bridge. And it did get forwarded to him the day after it was passed. I don't know why his staff did not get it to him particularly, or where it got lost to, but I did speak with him several days later, and he was unable to get it into the state budget. But we did work with that. I also was working with the Navigational Authority. The Navigational Authority has been very successful in working with the legislature to change state statute to better the use of the Fox River navigation properties. We cannot do anything until there is a final decision from our council. So every time I started to get something put together, something new came up at the council level, and then we had to stop doing what we were doing. We did meet with the city of Kaukauna as well, and the city of Little Chute. I did not meet with the city of Appleton formally, but I've spoke with the mayor there several times. And our plan is, now that we're moving forward, that we would get together with our state representatives as well as the elected officials from each of the communities that has a lift bridge within the Fox River Navigational Authority's area and work with them to change the statute. So that was the background behind Resolution 15. Alderman Stefanik?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe you did those things, and those are things you should be doing. But the fact of the matter is that when the council passes a resolution that is actually directed specifically to an issue that addresses the state, it comes from the clerk's office and it goes to both representatives, which we've practiced for as long as I've been around, and I've served now 23 years. So I don't know why that process wasn't followed through. Anytime we have a resolution and we want to gear it to our legislators and want them to make change in law, we have the clerk send them that resolution, and we usually expect a response back. And that's probably why Alderman Taylor followed through on what he did, because we never got anything back from the state. So if you feel that's incorrect, then that's something, a rule that we're going to have to put together. But it's been the practice always.
Alderman Taylor.
Everything you said, Mayor, I hope that you did do that, but also, this is the first time we're hearing this, so we should have been...
This is not the first time you've been
We should
hearing
be
this.
advised by everything that you said that you're doing with this. That's all I'm saying, Mayor. Moving on to item O, there's a memo in here about the diversity training. I did take the diversity and inclusion training this past weekend, and I'm surprised that the training isn't working in our community. And as it was stated in that training, that the training, as Alderman Benner had said, it starts at the top. And Mayor, for you to go out and get people to run against us, that
Alderman Taylor, this is
doesn't
not
help the
appropriate.
civility of this body here. So the training has failed, and you're not following the training. Thank you.
As far as the training, Alderman Taylor has not yet completed the training. There is a questionnaire if you did not watch it if you did not come in person or watch it in the building. So we have not gotten that questionnaire back yet at this point.
The mayor knows I had a medical issue, and I didn't want to share that with the public. And I think the HIPAA laws do provide me that privacy, but apparently you are aware of it, Mayor. Director Jacobs is aware of it, and yet you want to put this out here to somehow discredit me. And I did take the training, I listened to it. No one told me that there was a test that was for the people that viewed it, written by our own people here. Like, did Jimmy go here? Jimmy took this video. You can't take our word that we watched, that we listened to it, that I listened to it, and then you got to make up some little test that I was not aware of, Mayor. And my actions here with what Alderman Benner said in the video and what he said about you in the video, you can see that I saw the video or listened to it. So I think it was inappropriate, Mayor.
Two other aldermen did fill in their questionnaire and return it. And everyone who did not watch it as part of the group did fill out that questionnaire.
You certainly took a lot of memories tonight, debating from the chair, Mayor.
Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things. One, I'd like to ask Director Radomski about the fire truck possibly crossing over the bridge. If they do that, I would think that would it be your intent to confirm with DOT that they're okay with us driving over it? Because they did say that, 30,000 pounds is the limit on that bridge right now, and I have concerns about getting evasive about what the weight of the truck is and how we calculate it, and I don't mean that in any negative ways other than the fact I like to make sure that we don't cause any other potential problems if we do end up driving over that. Would that be your intent, to contact them?
Just waiting for I certainly can contact the DOT. It was a DOT regulation for the 30 tons, so I can definitely contact them and just ask them, whether the fire truck, if it went over in case of an emergency, if that would be okay. So I will contact the DOT and let them know, or let you guys know as well.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item G is the consent agenda. There are 6 items: the minutes to approve of the Common Council on January 15th, the Ad hoc Protocol Committee recommendations from January 8th, that the city adopt a code of ethics for elected officials, the Ad hoc Protocol Committee recommendations from January 27th, that the attached rules to the Common Council with the intent to create a set of rules of the Common Council to be adopted at the annual organizational meeting, the Needham and Asheville Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee recommendations from January 23rd to fill the vacant Assistant Chief of Training position and to hire 2 firefighters by April 1st, 1 to fill the vacancy due to a retirement on February 2nd and anticipated retirement in early June. And the Plan Commission recommendations from January 9th for the certified survey map as presented, adjusting the lot line between 2404 Woodland Hills Drive and 2691 Trumpeter Swan Lane. Does anyone wish to have any items separated this evening? Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to have the Common Council minutes separated.
Any other items? Alderman Nichols.
Number 3 and number 5.
Alderman Taylor.
Number 4.
Any others? Alderman Benner.
Mr. Mayor, item 2.
Okay, we're just going to separate all of them then. We'll just start and we'll do them individually then. Do we have a motion for the Common Council minutes for January 15th? Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I would like to postpone the approval of these minutes. There is a discrepancy that I find in the minutes that I don't agree with, and I'd like to review the video to be able to make sure that I am correct in this matter, and I would like to postpone it until the next meeting.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second by Alderman Zelinski. Debatable? To postpone is debatable, yes. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Just, let me make this change. You want it up there that says
Oh, to postpone.
to postpone. So they know it.
Okay.
Oh, that postpone's gone.
We'll figure it out.
Oops. I'm sorry, I thought you were all done. Okay. Kevin vote.
Can you, I don't know if Kevin can still vote or not, can he?
Just say it out loud. Yes.
Do you vote aye or nay, Kevin?
Go ahead, you can, if you would vote again, please. I restarted it.
Okay.
I was looking at Alderman Collier.
This is to postpone the Common Council minutes approval. Oh, and now I can.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Item 2 is the recommendation from the Ad hoc Protocol Committee to create a code of ethics. Is there a motion? Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move for the protocol's recommendation for the Code of Ethics.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Kevin had some.
Okay. Seeing no discussion, are you ready?
Yes.
Could we have a roll call vote, please? Oops.
Motion carried on roll call, 6-1.
Item 3 is ad hoc protocol committee recommendations for the attached rules. Do we have a motion? Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move for the ad hoc protocol committee's recommendation for the rules for the Common Council.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Taylor. Is there any discussion? Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 7 on this list. Could I get an explanation of that, just to make sure that I have the correct understanding of what is being asked in this rule?
I don't know who wants to take that one. Sure. I'm going to have to cut you off, Becky, okay? Alderman Sevenick?
I guess that what this is this is a regular old process that hasn't been followed through, that the committee feels is this is a common council meeting and not necessarily the committee of department heads and even mayor, but the mayor is running the meeting, so he is a part of the common council. What this says is that we have to ask for instance, let's say Parks Director Brian Tungate needs to address a certain issue, the council has to ask for unanimous consent to allow for him to speak. And for a general rule, that's usually been accepted.
Are you done, so I can give it back to her?
Oh, sorry.
And this is contrary to the current ordinance that requires the department head to speak if they are asked. Alderman Nichols?
I'm concerned for several reasons. One, that has not been the practice, at least during my time on the council. If any one of us had a question related to the agenda item that we're discussing, we were able to, or are able to, ask staff for clarifying information to help us make a responsible, reasonable decision and set policy for the city. I'm also concerned about this rule because at our last meeting, we agreed as a council that, and it was mentioned that we are elected to represent and bring a voice to our constituents, and that all of us here take an oath to do that. And some of the folks here before us, staff members, take an oath to serve the city as well. And I feel that they take that oath with great responsibility. They deserve to be heard. They are professionals on the matters that they speak of. And they are all here to serve our community as well. And all of us should be working together for our community and not setting up an opportunity to create an us versus them scenario that, in my mind, is not a very productive environment, and that's how bad decisions and bad policy happen. And so I think that it is important for us to be able to hear from our staff members at our meetings, and I think that the public deserves to hear from them as well. So I don't support item number 7. I look forward to hearing what other folks have to say about it.
Alderman Sevenick.
Obviously, no one, and you have to agree with this, no one's denying that they are unable to speak. It's just a procedural thing that in order for them to do, often to protect the minority or something else, you have to understand this is a council meeting. Also, too, if we go by the rules of what you're just saying right now, then the people in the gallery and the public can just go ahead and start talking at any time they want, and then we got a free-for-all up here. And that's why we have Robert's Rules of Order. We try to have a procedural process that we can follow so that we can have a proper and organized meeting. So, I mean, I'm not really big on this one way or the other. It's just that, just the way I explained it, and maybe you weren't here, but I was. And when Mayor Laux was mayor and we had the city attorney Brandt, the public was not allowed to speak until unanimous consent was given, because they're given 2 points in the meeting, and the same was with staff during a council meeting.
Alderman Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always looked at this, that for department heads, and I always thought it was part of the ordinance that they do have an obligation to speak. And I don't feel like we should have to get unanimous consent to get input from a department head about a topic that affects them, that's on the agenda. No, I don't think that they should have a vote, an ability to just interject whenever they want, but certainly when a question is asked of them, we shouldn't have to get unanimous consent for them to speak and answer the question. And I believe the mayor is correct that the ordinance not only allows them to speak, but would require them to speak on something that involves them. And so I agree with what Alderman Sevenich is saying about folks from the gallery not having the ability to do that, but I think anybody that if we have a department head, or same as any of us sitting up here, they not only have a right, but I think a responsibility to speak on these topics. So I think that maybe this could be worded a little bit differently, possibly, and especially if our ordinance does state that they have an obligation to speak. Thank you.
Alderman Kruger.
Thank you, Mayor. I could see both points, but I do lean more towards what Alderman Nichols and Benner are saying, that if a alderman is talking and asks a direct question to one of the department heads, I don't see where unanimous consent should be needed. But if a department head wants to speak without being asked from a elected official, then I think that would be the appropriate part to have the unanimous consent. But just to have it at any point in time that the department head speaks, especially when an alderman asks a direct question to get an answer like I did previously, I personally don't think unanimous consent is needed at that point in time, nor should it be. But let's see what everybody else says.
Yeah. Is there further discussion? Alderman Taylor?
Nobody's denying any department head that opportunity. It's like Alderman Stefanik said, it's a formal set of rules that we operate by. Courtrooms do it. We do it. It's a branch of government, and instead of just willy-nilly everybody talking, that doesn't work. And to respect the body, asking for unanimous consent with no objections, the department head can talk. And it's just, I think in our country, we've got too many rules that have been watered down, and this is just a formality in our council way that it operates, and I think it's a good one. Thank you.
Alderman Stefanik.
It would seem as though a couple or a few members disagree with this process, but if they do, then so we're not here all night, if they would either make a recommendation or a motion, that would be in order so that we can move forward.
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. While no one has ever denied well, some say no one has ever denied staff an opportunity to speak. The rule says that if there is not unanimous consent from the body, then a majority vote is required. So there certainly is opportunity there to deny someone, an officer of the city, the opportunity to speak. And as Alderman Sevenick said, there are several members here that are concerned about the wording of that document. So I move that we remove number 7 at this point, and if the committee would like to come back with an alternate wording of that rule, that it could be considered when the entire document is brought forward.
So there's a motion, a second, to delete item, which item are we on now? 7, okay.
No, that's not the motion there. She's asking that it be referred back to
Okay.
protocol for rewording.
You would like to refer item 7 back to the protocol committee? Alderman Nichols?
It has been my understanding through this process that we would be eventually given an entire set of rules and codes to vote on. And so I'm suggesting that if the committee feels it is an important rule, that if they want to take a look at it and bring back an alternative to that rule with different wording, then I'm open to that.
So that would be referring that item back to committee?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a motion to amend the items to refer item 7 back to committee, and I don't remember if there was a second. There was a second from Alderman Kruger. Is there any discussion on referring back to the committee? Seeing none. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. Alderman
Thank you,
Benner?
Mr. Mayor. I was a little confused. Are we sending the whole document back and having item 7 done, or just item 7 and looking to approve everything except item 7?
Just item 7 at this point?
Okay, thank you. So we're only voting on item 7 right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're separating out item 7 and referring it back to committee. So I guess we should have a roll call vote then, it looks like, since people. Okay.
Committee come back with alternative rule?
Sure. Okay. Is no further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote then, please? Now that we found it. Oops.
Motion carried on roll call, 7-0.
At this point, we have items 1 through 6 and 8 still on the floor. Is there any further? There was a motion, correct? Are we back, Gwen?
Yes.
Okay. So is there further discussion on those items? Seeing none, could we have a roll call on the remaining items then?
Motion carried on roll call, 6-1.
Item 4 is the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee recommendation to fill the vacant Assistant Chief of Training position. Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move that the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee's recommendation to this body and also to the Neenah City Council to fill the vacant Assistant Chief's position for training.
So motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, when we merged our departments, we took our deputy chiefs and kind of made a package with it. Len Vanderweist was chief at that time, and I think the only one on the council with me was Alderman Sevenick at that time. And this was a model for us to not to eliminate anybody's job, merge both departments, and I think it's been 10 years, 12 years So, 15? Well, time does go by, 15 years. And at that time, we had talked about, as we move further with the department and maybe as people retire, we can overlap responsibilities. And I talked with the chief at length about this, and I would probably be against this at this time to replace that position instead of merging, overlapping this with other deputy chiefs and chief. But we do have a group of young cadets coming up, and training is job one, safety is job one. So I hope, Chief, in the next, from here to you retire, that we have this discussion. I would like to let the new people coming up know that there's a possibility that there may be some overlapping duties here if we look at reduction in staff. Certainly the private sector has been doing it for many years. And again, this was a model that was put together by Chief Van der Weist at the time, and I respect that. But I also, as time marches on, we embrace new technologies and new training, ways of doing training, and got a good handle on our department now. I think it's time that we could look at maybe some overlapping responsibilities. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. I somewhat agree with what Alderman Taylor is saying, but this is a different time. This is a unique situation. I chair this committee, and this is the position that I took.
I said I would support it.
I realize that. But I realize that we're in a unique situation. We just recently hired 5 new firefighters, and that's within a year and a half. And we're also looking at, down the road, the possibility, and I got to be careful how I say this, but with the possibility of some future retirements coming up. So we got a pretty young and new department, and I think training is more important than ever in our history as the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue. So I would strongly encourage the rest of this body to vote for this. Again, I would agree with Alderman Taylor if it was a different time, and we might want to look at maybe condensing and consolidating these deputy positions. But this isn't just we go out and hire somebody. City of Appleton recently tried to hire this position. It took them nearly 1 year to finally find someone, and I believe they just hired that individual. So we're going to have a hard time ourselves finding this individual. Not only that, but they need to be certified in 3 areas: fire protection, the first responders area, and ice rescue area. And that's got to be a real unique individual. So that's why I favor this, and I want the rest of this body to also support it.
Alderman Kruger?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, this is a really important position, obviously. Could you quickly tell the council how many man-hours a week this position takes up doing the safety?
I haven't calculated how many hours that is, but it is at this time, it is a crucial position because it's not only for our new firefighters that are coming on, as Alderman Sevenick said, with 5 in the last year and a half. We have possibly up to 3 this year, and then possibly 15 to 18 in the next 3 to 6 years. And so it's not just the new firefighters, it's the firefighters that are there now that are moving up to drive, and those drivers moving up to be officers. So there's not just training for the new firefighters, it's all the different positions require training from that training officer. So there's many hours of planning, not just going out and physically doing the training. So it's preparing them. Again, like I stated, we're in the process of creating training manuals for each of these positions, and we've worked just on the new firefighter one over the last year, and it's just now been completed, tweaked a little bit, and so now the goal is to work on the the shift inspectors and the drivers and the fire officers, so that each of those positions have some type of training manual. So I can't even tell you how many hours have been put into just that project alone.
My other question then would be, is this position, I would take it, requires a certain type of training to be able to fill this position, and if the other positions or other chiefs don't have this training, I would take it, they would also have to try to get the training and work this out then. So, I mean, in your eyes, it would not be feasible to try to mesh this job in with, or this position and with other positions currently, correct?
That's correct. They have to have it's called educational methodology class, and there's 3 levels of that. And so it's basically a teaching type of certification, and then also have their training certification as well. So there are different multiple levels of that. I do have that, and that's it. So we would have to send other admin members to get that. And again, we try to work and do multiple different tasks. For example, Assistant Chief Green does fire prevention. He's the fire marshal, so he does fire investigations. He's part of the building inspections for both cities, which is about 3,500. And then he is now helping out the planning and testing of systems in all our industry. So he is doing multi-level different tasks. So, and that's just one of the positions. Even the training chief, he's part of different groups outside of the fire department, where he's working with, meeting with training officers throughout the Fox Valley or the state. He's part of the EOC. He does some training on the outside to our staff at both cities. So we're trying to do as much as we can with each individual admin member as possible.
Thank you.
Now it's letting me have 2 on at the same time. Alderman Grady.
Thank you. Chief, looking at I'll go back to the 2018 budget that was submitted for, you had 63 line staff members and 5 professionals. With the additions of, we're talking about line 4 here, but 5 is the next topic with 2 more firefighters being hired. Are you still within your budget salary range for 2018?
We should come in, I'm assuming we'll come in a little lower than what we've budgeted, because we have not had that training officer position now for a couple weeks, and we probably won't fill it at least for another month. So we'll have some savings there, and then you'll see the savings with the retirement now that we had, and then we'll also have some savings in not being able to hire probably until sometime in April probably.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Alderman Taylor.
I just want to clarify, I'm in favor of this position at this time, but I was just trying to be proactive for the future, that we look at possibly staff reductions and the new people coming into this position. The chief is going to retire in 4 or 5 years, another deputy chief in 4 or 5 years, and with those people retiring, I think it's an opportunity, as in any business, to reload and look at the situation, and with their help also, maybe we can dovetail this into other positions, and certainly with added responsibility, there comes an increase in wages too. So just looking always at lowering the people of Menasha's taxes, but at this time with the safety concerns, I'm not for it at this time. Thanks. But I'm going to vote for this.
Chief told me he's never going to retire.
Seeing no further discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Oops.
Motion carried on roll call 7-0.
Item 5 is the recommendation to hire firefighters. Do we have a motion? Pardon? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee's recommendation to hire 2 firefighters by April 1st, one to fill the vacancy due to a retirement on February 2nd, and an anticipated retirement in early June. And I'd like to amend that so that it's similar to the motion passed in committee to say, but not to fill the second position until notice of intent to retire has been received.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Sevenick. Is there any other discussion? Alderman Nichols, did you have more discussion?
I would just like to add that that amendment is offered because the committee was intent on not recruiting for that second position until a retirement was announced.
I was going to mention it because I noticed that it wasn't quite exactly what was discussed in committee as well. Seeing no further discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 7-0.
Item I is action items. The first item is the accounts payable and payroll. Did I miss one? Oh, I'm sorry. Item 6 is the Plan Commission recommendation for the certified survey map. No one wanted that one anyhow, right? Alderman Benner.
Sam would have a tear if I didn't do this tonight. I make a motion to approve consent agenda item number 6, CSM as presented, adjusting the lot line between 2404 Woodland Hills Drive and 2691 Trumpeter Swan Lane.
Is there a second? Second. It's a second by Alderman Kruger. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 7-0.
Okay, now we'll move on to action items, the accounts payable and payroll for January 18th through February 1st. Alderman Kruger?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve accounts payable and payroll for the term of 1/18/2018 to 2/1/2018 in the amount of $2,039,535.99.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second by Alderman Grady. Any discussion? Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. A few months ago, John, I had mentioned that we were going to get a little better update on the credit card thing. So I just wanted to kind of, sorry I didn't just call you on that, but I just thought of it now. So thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 7-0.
Item 2 is the beverage operators license applications. Do we have a motion for those recommended for approval? Alderman Kruger.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion for the approval of the beverage operator license application for 2017 through 2019 licensing period as mentioned in the memo dated January 31, 2018.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second by Alderman Benner. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 7-0.
There is one license recommended for denial at this point. Chief Stajka, did you want to comment on this before we move forward?
Yes, if I could. Just one clarification on the letter that you received. Obviously, prior to coming to a meeting, we review this to make sure that it's accurate and that there be that I'd be able to answer your questions. There's one line in the first paragraph, fourth line, that indicates that the subject that's up for the denial has a misdemeanor and felony drug-related conviction. That is not correct. All the other convictions that are listed on the letter would be correct, but for the purposes of any discussions you would have or decision that you're going to render, please do not consider anything in reference to a drug-related conviction. None exists.
Okay. Ms. Albright is here this evening, and she would like to speak. And we will turn, there we go.
Hi, my name is Renee Albright. My address is 2.5 Takewell Street, Menasha. I did call and talk to the lieutenant today. That did clarify all of this, and I'm just hoping you guys can change your mind in letting me get my liquor license. I would like to further bartending than work in any other profession that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion, or are there any questions? Oops, Alderman Kruger, maybe. There we go.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question before I make a motion for Chief Stika. It says misappropriation of personal identification. Could you please elaborate what exactly that is?
Oops.
I think I double clutched. Basically identity theft, taking someone's identity and utilizing it in some sort of capacity to complete a financial transaction.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to deny the beverage operator license to Mrs. Renee Albright per the police department memo dated January 25th, 2018.
Is there a second? No? There's a motion and a second by Alderman Nichols. Discussion? Alderman Nichols.
Attorney Captain, there is a 2011 offense and 2012 offense, and I would like for you to clarify whether or not those years should continue to be taken into consideration.
Attorney Captain.
I notice in this particular case that there were convictions in 2000 and 2001, and certainly if there were no other convictions after that point, those would not be able to be taken into consideration. However, then there's a span of time and something else comes up in 2011 and 2012. They appear to be similar type convictions, and in determining whether to take into consideration convictions over a period of time, the Common Council is able to look back to those because there are others that occurred more recently. And so is there a pattern here where every 8 to 10 years, all of a sudden we fall back into the same behaviors that lead to additional convictions, or not? I guess that is a decision for the Common Council to make, whether or not they do want to take them into consideration.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Alderman Taylor.
What if I could ask you to come back up to the podium? We all do have things going on in our life, and we mature through times, hopefully, and just was wondering what your opinion was of the city laws that we have and the state laws. Do you feel that you could uphold those?
Yes, I can uphold them. Yes, I do have a record. I have changed my life, and I am proceeding forward with bettering my life without any running into the law or any other convictions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
I have a question for the city attorney. Again, I'm, it's kind of mixed up for me here. I have a 2014 date. What is our cutoff? Don't we have a period where after a certain period of time, we decide that we don't have to follow those, especially if they show they're not habitual offenders, that they're showing that they haven't done anything, say, in the last 5 or 6 years. I see a 14, before you were only talking about a 12 or something like that, so I don't confuse. On the back of her application, it says 3 years misappropriated ID 2014 or something like that, so I don't know.
Attorney Captain?
And that might be something that perhaps we can ask her about the 2014. Is there something in 2014 as well?
Not that I recall.
On the back, you have indicated I was convicted of uttering in 1999, probation 3 years, misappropriated an ID 2014, 3-year probation? Or was that the end of the probation?
No, maybe it was 2013, but I did probation.
Okay.
And I've been on the right narrow ever since.
So it must have been a conviction in 2012 and then,
I guess we'll have to see what the chief might have then, because, and again, we base this on whether someone is habitual, correct? And how recent they've been. So if I could get a right date, my opinion might be one way or another, based on what our criteria is.
in the statute,
You turned it off.
the, one of the statutes that pertain to issuing alcohol licenses does indicate that if someone has been convicted of a felony and it has not been pardoned, that could be the sole reason for not issuing a license. But there are other Wisconsin statutes then that come into play which indicate that if it's been too far in time and there have not been further convictions, then that felony should not be taken into consideration. So that's one area where a person could be denied a license, an alcohol license. Another way that an alcohol license can be denied is if someone is a habitual offender. And what that means is that there are a series of offenses that someone has committed. They could be felonies, misdemeanors, they could be municipal offenses, so citations that somebody received. But if there is some indication of a pattern which would lead a person to believe that someone who is asking for a license is not able to follow the law, and that's what we're expecting someone who has an alcohol license to do, that could be a reason to deny a license. Then the city of Menasha has its own policy, which kind of helps put those things in perspective. And according to our own policy, the only guideline is that would be in effect here is guideline 1, I believe, and that is taking into consideration if someone has been convicted of a felony, unless pardon does not qualify someone for an operator's license. But as I indicated, then you have to look back at the time, how far back did it occur? Which, as was mentioned earlier, if we're looking at 2000, 2001, that's pretty far back. And then the next ones are in 2011, 2012. So the question really is, does that indicate to the Common Council that there is a pattern where she is unable to follow the law? Or is it that behaviors have been changed, and since there are no offenses since 2012, that the Common Council is comfortable with issuing an alcohol license? Those are really the two scenarios that one should think of and decide which one to choose.
Yeah, because the one I have here from the Menasha Police Department indicates that the last felony was in 2012, but then there was this 2014 thing. So, can you help me one more time with the state when someone commits a felony and wants to have a liquor license?
If someone commits a felony and wants to have a liquor license, a felony conviction, just even one, can prevent someone from having or from getting a liquor license. However, other Wisconsin statutes come into play that indicate that, if someone's done their time, they've, taken whatever penalty was handed to them, and the person has been rehabilitated, then it is not appropriate to take into consideration of a felony conviction. So that's one of the considerations. The other one, as I mentioned, was the habitual offender, which, does the council believe that there's a pattern that indicates the inability to follow the law here? In this particular case, it really would be up to the Common Council what they believe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Taylor?
Attorney Captain, by completing probation and going through that process, does that account for that the person is gone through that and under the guidance of an officer? Does that account for applying for a license under the state law?
And that is something that can be considered by the Common Council as being indicative of, somebody serving out their time and being rehabilitated and is not likely to commit further offenses.
Thank you.
Alderman Penner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for the attorney. Under Guideline 1, it says in bold print, any person who's been convicted of any felony unless duly pardoned does not qualify for an operator's license. And then it goes on to reference the state statute. And is part of that statute give us the latitude to do what you're suggesting, that we can still make that decision? Because under the habitual law offender in Guideline 3, I think it could give you the latitude that you're suggesting, but I'm confused about the bold language in Guideline 1.
In Guideline 1, as you mentioned, it is referring to a felony conviction, and point blank, a felony conviction, if it has not been pardoned, a person is not qualified to receive an alcohol license. However, there are other Wisconsin statutes dealing with discrimination. A person cannot be discriminated against based on in hiring and in receiving licenses and permits and things like that. What has to be taken into consideration, even if there is a felony, we have to do this with employment as well. If someone is applying for employment, even if the person's convicted of a felony, it has to be something that is substantially related to, whatever offense perhaps would be substantially related to the trust that the person is going to be entrusted with abiding by the
the law. And so if, you have to take that into consideration, and you have to take in the time and the circumstances perhaps of the conviction if you're going to consider it. In this particular case, again, we're looking at 2000, 2001, that's a long time ago, and then the more recent ones. And it would be up to the Common Council to decide, is that, should those felonies be considered or not? Is it too far, are they too far in time to be taken into consideration? Has the person been rehabilitated and can be entrusted with abiding by the law?
Yeah,
So,
okay.
but that is the hard and fast rule. It's just that there's other statutes that come into play that have to be considered as well.
So we would not be
Besides this one.
violating the state statute if this person were to be granted a license?
If the Common Council believe that the felonies are, they occurred a long time ago, person has been rehabilitated and can be trusted to abide by the rules, that is okay.
So we would be able to use then within our guidelines, that habitual law offender guideline that's placed in there that tells us how many offenses and over how many years a person could use that
And
for
that
a guideline?
habitual law offender is really just these are the general policy of the Common Council. And so even in that case, the council is able to take into consideration, special circumstances, although they're guidelines.
Sure, okay.
You have to look at each case. And so when you're looking at these 2 or more offenses within the preceding 1 year, 3 or more within 5 years, 6 or more within 10 years, and I think, what are these 4 offenses within 17 years?
Just the nature of them has me a little concerned. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Seven.
I wouldn't do my due diligence if I wouldn't ask the chief what I was originally looking at, other than what I'm reading is, were there any other types of convictions after 2012?
The last conviction I am showing is 2012.
Are you done, Stan?
Oops, sorry, Mayor.
Alderman Kruger?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have one question for Ms. Albright. You mentioned that basically bartending is your life. How long have you been bartending?
This would be actually the first time I have worked in fast food all my life, and I'm trying to get away from that. And I really wanted the opportunity to try and bartend. I mean, I'm not going to break any more laws. I've learned that big time lesson in one.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion? Alderman Taylor?
I'd just like to say that I appreciate Ms. Albright. The last 5 years is not offended, so that's very good. Move in the right direction, and your probation too. Appreciate all that. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please?
And this is to deny.
This is to deny. So if you vote yes, it's to deny. If you vote no, then we'd have to have another vote to approve. Oops, sorry.
Motion carried on roll call 4-3.
Sure. So the motion did carry to deny, and if you wanted to talk to the chief, you can talk about what that means, but it means that we will not be granting a license at this point. I'm not sure how soon she could apply again, though. Alderman Taylor?
Attorney Captain, in the city, can she bartend without a license? And what is someone has to be on the premises, or how does that go?
Yep.
Attorney Captain? Oops, I'm sorry.
With a licensed bartender?
Has to be on premise?
Yes,
Has to be on the property, and she can bartend there?
correct,
Without a license?
correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item 3 is the out-of-state travel request from the police department. Do we have a motion? Alderman Kruger.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make the motion to approve the out-of-state travel request from the police department.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second from Alderman Grotti. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please? Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion carried on roll call, 7-0.
Item J is held over business. Closed caption requirements. We did get some more information from Green Bay Public Television. I don't know if anyone has questions or would like to do anything at this point. Do we have any discussion? Alderman Kruger.
Thank you, Mayor. I just one discussion point. The way I figured it out on the average meetings that we have, it would still cost the city $6,000 to $8,000 a year to still have it, even though they figured it out with the voice recognition, correct? I think it was like $1 per minute, so it'd still end up being.
From my understanding, it still is $1 a minute and somewhere in that range. There is some additional cost from UW Fox as well to merge the two files together. And I think he said about a half an hour, Debbie, for each meeting.
Okay.
So it's still
that's
pretty
still-
significant
It's pretty
cost.
steep, yes. Thank you.
We just did that one. The attorney's saying that we had to do the out-of-state travel request yet. So do we did do that one, though. I know. So I was like, So I don't know if anyone has a pleasure with the closed captioning. Alderman Sevenick?
I just have a question. Obviously, just so the public understands, is that we're not able to broadcast our meetings on regular cable or UVerse because of a complaint filed by a individual that they're not closed captioned underneath. But you can watch these council meetings on YouTube, and YouTube provides closed caption. So my question is, we post that ourselves on YouTube. Is there any way we can't submit a YouTube video of the closed captioning and rebroadcast it? That has which would have the closed captioning in it, instead of spending all this money to have an individual do all this stuff?
My guess would be we could not use YouTube's product someplace
I'm
else,
just
but I'm not
throwing
sure.
that out there.
Yeah.
And, I'm not sure, but could we check into it?
We
Could
can
we
check,
maybe
sure.
contact YouTube as a public service or something like that, so we're not spending money for this? I mean, I understand it's a service that could be needed, but my point is that I can't have everything I want either, and I have alternative ways of finding things, and YouTube is another opportunity. Could we not somehow, even in our, if we broadcast, say, if you need to watch this in closed captioning, you may by visiting the city's website at www, or you may watch this in closed caption on YouTube.
This is a decision made by Green Bay Public Television, which owns the equipment to broadcast this. So this is their policy, so we cannot do what you're suggesting because they won't allow us to do that. Others have asked about that already, but because we don't own the equipment, we have to live by their policies.
And why is it only that we use that particular process when we're actually closer to Oshkosh?
It's because of the way that the cable areas are set up. So we get a feed out of Green Bay for our stations, where Oshkosh.
I can watch a county board meeting from Oshkosh. Why
They
can't I
send
watch?
it up to Green Bay, though.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, Oshkosh has a different set of channels than
Oh, wait a
Appleton
minute.
and Green Bay do.
They send it live up there?
I'm not sure
I
if
don't
they
think
send
they
it
do, because
live, but
county
they do
board
send
meetings
it
are
up.
live.
In Oshkosh, they do, correct?
Yes, right, but they get broadcasted to Menasha. So why couldn't we broadcast from Oshkosh? I think we need to investigate that.
We could look into that, too.
Okay.
There is a switch down in Oshkosh that somehow does that, but I'm not sure if we could set up a switch here as well. It'd probably be some other different costs.
I mean, my
but we could.
gosh, we live in Winnebago County. We're sending stuff up to Brown County, and we can't even get the service within our own county? Something wrong with that.
So, take no action on that at this point? Alderman Sevenick?
Just the discussion we had, I hope that you and staff can follow up
We can check
and
with
update
the
us
county
on
and
that.
find out how they do that, yes. There's one appointment. Do we have a motion for the reappointment of Brenda Marks? Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move for your appointment of Brenda Marks to the Committee on Aging for a term, for the term listed.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Kruger. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Item N is public comments on any matter that was on the agenda this evening. Is there anyone who wishes to comment? Seeing no one, do we have a motion to adjourn? No motions to adjourn? It's a motion and a second by Alderman Grady. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.